Hello and welcome to Grind Slime TV with me, your host Aaron. And today we're going to Brazil. And I'm not talking about Motorhead, son. No, no, no. We're getting way more extreme than that. We are talking, boom, Vulcano and their album Bloody Vengeance. Now, Vulcano have got a pretty extensive catalogue, but this is the only thing from it I own. I have heard the second album, Anthropophagy, and I thought it was cool. Nowhere near as good as this, but I'll get around to buying it eventually. If I find it, cheap enough. But this, I happily paid above what I would normally pay for CDs. I made the special exception. So, because this one is the reissue from 2022, and I've been looking for this album for ages. Every time I got the opportunity, someone else snagged it before me, and other times it's just been way too expensive. So shout out to who did put this back out? Cogumelo Records, Rock Brigade Records, Voice Music, Grey Haze Records. A lot of record labels involved apparently. And why wouldn't there be? It's a smashing release. Came out in '86. Very blasphemous kind of artwork there. You got Jesus doing the as above, so below thing. So he's he's doing it the wrong way around, but never mind. Is what it is. Lyrics you can pretty much imagine were very much of the satanic, occult, demonology kind of thing for the most part. There's some mentions in there of nuclear war. What the whole Cuban Missile Crisis going on at the time. So that was a big thing for everybody in Brazil, being like just over there. You know what I mean? It's going to be a big topic. You've got your general metal-looking guys on the back. He's not the most flattering picture. It looks like he's deep throating that bone. But even if he is, more power to him. Nothing. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Seinfeld reference there for you. I think he's the other guy's just holding his lighter. I think he's like, I haven't got a prop, but look, fire. Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, you look cool. But there's the whole band there. There's not just a two-piece. It's five of the bastards. One of them has passed away, unfortunately. Died of high blood pressure. Yeah. So get that checked. Now, the importance of this album cannot be understated, okay? This pretty much, it's because of this record that extreme metal sounds the way it does today. And a lot of people, when they throw on some Brazilian sort of early black and death thrash, people argue about the subgenre, Same with this, people say it's a death metal album, people say it's a black metal album, people say it's a thrash metal album. Why can't it be all three? Black and death thrash, alright? At the time, they just called it black metal or death metal, or actually they called it thrash metal as well. See, this is how much they jumble up. But it's extreme as it gets around that era, And there's some bands today who are trying to sound like this, but going back to what we were saying, like early days in Brazil, when bands were coming out, everyone was like, oh yeah, cool, I get it, it's Sepultura worship. Sepultura is Volcano worship, okay? These guys were first. And look, Max Cavalera has even said that this is like one of the biggest influences on his music and stuff. So this is what these guys had to play with, okay? They didn't have any sort of background of like extreme metal in Brazil before this, okay? And it's not like they can just get access to all the music over the world. This was the early 80s we're talking about, like I think it was because they started off as heavy metal in '81, and I think their demo that came out in '83, I think it was when they started doing the sort of more extreme sound. It might have been '84. I think it was '84. But so I imagine they probably heard maybe a bit of Celtic Frost or some Slayer or something, whatever. But whatever it was, they pulled it out their ass and they made this bad boy. And these guys are completely self-funded. There was no metal scene. Okay, as metal as it was down there was bands trying to sound like Judas Priest, but nothing wrong with that, But it was bands like that. This was the first of their kind. They could never get shows, so they self-financed everything. They went around, they handed out gig flyers. they put out notes to like local papers and magazines, and they just reached out to all the radio stations they could. These guys built their empire, and oh, the sound is awesome. Like this to me is pretty much near perfect kind of production. Okay, it's raw. It sounds like what the band would have sounded like, particularly at the time. Obviously, but you know what I mean. Don't be a cunt. And it's got that whole sort of just rehearsal room kind of sound to it, but everything cuts through as well. Like, okay, this doesn't sound polished at all, but you can hear all the instruments and you can hear them well. And the bass particularly shines on this album, in my humble opinion, because obviously, I'm not an authority on any of this shit. And so let's have a look at this guy. His name was Zima, and he's the only guy in the band now. I think he was the founding dude back in '81 when they started, and is still the only guy left in it now. But great bass performance. It's not like he was just bass for the sake of it. Like, as much as I love those old Sepultura records, if someone said to you, "Oh, Paolo Jr.'s been taken off of them," and you can't really hear him, most wouldn't notice. No offense to Paolo or nothing, but it is what it is, man. And those are some of my favourite records, so I'm not trying to slag the guy off. It's just, it's what it is. But yeah, absolute carnage all the way through these guys here. Look, when you listen to black metal, death metal, thrash metal today, whether those bands have heard this album or not, it's like, dude, so much of your sound comes from these guys. It really is an important album, to the point of just, I don't know, outside of bands like Celtic Frost, Possessed, Slayer, and stuff, like what those bands were to those areas is what these guys were to South America. Like, and I'm not just talking Brazil, I mean South America. Okay? Extreme metal staple, and it doesn't get talked about enough. And I don't want to use the word aficionados because that sounds a bit self-congratulatory and pretentious, and I'm not all about that, you know what I mean, bruv? But or this, whichever you are. But you cannot call yourself a full-on metalhead if you're not willing to at least check this out. Okay? And I don't really mean that, obviously, but it's just that important, right? It's essential. I'm not going to be one of those that's like, oh yeah, if you don't own this, then you're fucking whatever. It's like, shut up, mate. Until I didn't own this till like 3 years ago myself. You know what I'm talking about? Actually, no, it was earlier this year. I actually finally managed to get my hands on this, thanks to NWM Prod. But so what was I not a metalhead before then? Shut the fuck up. But definitely worth checking out. If you don't like, if you've already heard him, you're like, oh yeah, I checked that out. I thought it was shit. It's like, all right, well, fair enough. But at least you went and checked it out. Do yourself a service. If you're into black metal, old school death metal, thrash metal, this is worth at least. I mean, and mate, the whole album, it isn't even 24 minutes. It's like 23 minutes 30 something or whatever. And all the tracks are absolute bangers. There's 8 of them in total. Only 7 are like full proper songs, because track 7 is more of it's like a pitch shifted a cappella. Really cool though. It works as a sort of intro kind of thing, and I kind of like it when they have these sort of, because a lot of bands, like Putridity, they'll have like on their album, which has got a lot for album names, people. Their second album, that was Anthropophagus, fucking Euphorious, Satan comes on your tits, whatever, just they'll have it halfway through and it works perfect. But I do like it when they have it a little later. It's like a own special intro for the final like album track, and which is a banger. But my favourite song on here is probably Holocaust, track 4, which is heavy as balls. I mean, the breakdown riff alone is just, oh yeah, it's a headbanger, And I'm not talking like, oh, it was heavy for the time. No, it's heavy today. It is fantastic. Very simple kind of play style on that. Those are the best riffs, the simple ones, And what I like about Vulcano as well is that when it came to like the like demonology and occult stuff, they weren't just pulling it out their ass to be shocking. You know, like bands like Slayer have been on record, and like Morbid Angel saying, oh, Slayer, it was like, oh, we just wanted to be more extreme than Motley Crue, and you know, whoever it was in Morbid Angel said, oh yeah, it's just a the selling gimmick. It's just it is what it is. And I ain't got a problem with that. What you got to be into murder to make a murder movie? What is this? So but these guys, it's cool that they actually did a lot of research, and like even the band name itself comes down to the practice of numerology in astronomy and finding out like which is I'm a bit of a junior occultist. I'm not like deep, but I consider myself a Satanist and stuff. But we'll get into that another time if anyone's interested. And if you're not, I don't blame you. But but there's a use in there like the number 6, like because like numerology starts off at like it's the number value of each letter of the alphabet. Now there's a lot of to and fro again, like the subgenres of like thrash, death, and black and whatnot, and all that lot. You get some numerologists they're like, oh, but the original like Jewish alphabet was like 22 letters. So like A would be 1, B would be 2, C would be 3. But even that's debated. They're like, no, you've got to cross it with that one and that one. But eventually, you can use a certain code with alphabet to find numbers. And that way these guys did it, they did it through all the different planets and shit, because obviously astronomy and occultism goes hand in hand. And they found the 6th planet was actually the rings that go around Saturn, which is believed to have once been a planet that got destroyed, pulled into Saturn's gravitational pull, and became Saturn's rings. Which, an interesting fact, that happened after sharks last evolved. That's how cool sharks are. How cool is that? They've just been this perfect predator for millions of years. Like, but the last time they evolved, Saturn didn't have rings, and there was another planet nonsense about. Well, that planet that is all destroyed and broken and turned into the rings of Saturn is in fact called Vulcano. So maybe the guys in Rings of Saturn are Vulcano fans. Who knows? Or maybe it was just a cool name. Not my kind of music, but they do what they do and they do it well. But this, definitely worth picking up, or at least checking out. But if you can pick it up, I mean, I don't know if NWN still, like Nuclear War Now Productions, still have any in stock. They might do, but I don't know. That's where I got mine from. It did come with a poster as well. It's got the slip case. It's got like, yeah, pretty standard sort of like what thing going on. It did come with a poster, but mine's up on the wall, not behind me, over there behind my TV, next to a Nuclear War Now poster, funnily enough. So that works out all right. But yeah, this is definitely essential extreme metal listening. If you want to get to know some of the older stuff, and see where the newer stuff came from, this is a great place to start after checking out, the usuals like Sodom, Hellhammer, Celtic Frost, Possessed, Slayer, and that ilk. That should be definitely on your list of things to check out. Bloody Vengeance by Vulcano. Check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Shout out to Ghoulish Grin's channel. Dave shouted me out the other day, and today actually, and it's appreciated, my friend. You have a mighty beard. So with that little little note, I'll be off in a bit, people.